driver ever to win on the NASCAR Winston Modified Tour and the youngest driver ever to win a feature race here at Martinsville Speedway. But then 3 weeks ago, tragedy struck at Thompson, Connecticut during the icebreaker. He was running well and suddenly the car broke loose and the rear of the car was completely torn away. He fractured his right scapula. That's actually the shoulder blade on the right side. He had a difficult time trying to drive, and he had a good break last week because the race was rained out at Stafford Springs, Connecticut. So he had 2 weeks to try to heal. He is back here at Martinsville Speedway sitting in the car. He said he feels awfully sore, but he's going to try to make it 150 laps today. So a young driver just turned 22 last week. Mikey Wadisco starting ninth, trying to get another victory here at Martinsville Speedway. A driver who's had a number of wins. In fact, he won 2 of the 3 events here last year and had his troubles earlier today, and he is standing by where Jack Arute is. Jack?
Well, Jerry, Tommy Baldwin normally would find himself further up in the front of the field, but this afternoon, or actually this morning in practice, he crashed badly here in turn number 4. The car developed a push during his qualifying effort, and he just walloped the wall. Now, what Baldwin and company had to do is replace this entire rear suspension area, take all that off, put new ones on, and the front suspension as well. He just completed that task approximately 5 minutes ago, strapped himself in the car, greasy hands and all, and he'll be starting shotgun on the field. And as you look over my shoulder, he's got a long way to go if he hopes to make it to the checkered flag and a trip to victory lane here at Martinsville, Virginia.
All right, thank you very much, Jack. 150 laps of competition, and we will be back to introduce to you the entire starting field as we get set for NASCAR Modified Racing on this Saturday afternoon. Stay with us. Back at Martinsville, Virginia Speedway, where in just a few moments the signal will be given to start the engines, and we'll be racing for 150 laps here in the Raven Boats 150. And now here is the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole position in car number 21 will be Jeff Fuller. He's from Auburn, Massachusetts, in the Superior Process Chevrolet alongside Mike Stefanik in car number 16. He's from West Greenwich, Rhode Island. In row number 2, it'll be Rick Fuller from Auburn, Massachusetts, driving car number 2. And outside of row number 2, the number 44 car driven by Reggie Ruggiero. In the third row will be Mike McLaughlin, car number 12, the defending series champion, and Jan Leete in car number 25. The fourth row, number 76, Tom Bowles, and number 1, Tony Hirschman. Going to row number 5, it'll be Mike Ionesco driving car number 36, and Eddie DeHunt in number 9. In the sixth row, the 26 car of George Kent and the 95 of Lee Sherwood. Going to row number 7, it's Richie Gallup in car 77 and the 69 of Brian Ross. Doug Heverin starts inside of row number 8 in car number 3, and then Stephen Park in number 81. The ninth row has Chris Ross in car number 73 and Jimmy Spencer, who won last weekend at North Wilkesboro in car 07. The 10th row, it's George Ross Jr. in car number 24 and the 18 of Bobby Hutchins. In the 11th row, it's Ed Flimke Jr. driving car number 10 and the 8 of Bo Gunning. Row number 12, Frank Fleming, car number 40, and 15, Wayne Anderson. In the 13th row, it'll be Satch Worley in car 04 and Wayne Edwards in 48. Jamie Tomeno in 99 and Johnny Bryant in 45 make up row number 14. In the 15th row, it's Charlie Pasteryak in number 5 and Billy Middleton in 46. Tom Baldwin and Randy Morrison start in the last row, row 16 and number 7 and 19. Now, the point standings going into this event, and there have been 2 previous races this year. Mike McLaughlin is on top of the point standings with 350. Baldwin is second, followed by Leete, Stephen Park, and Tony Hirschman. Let's go down the grid and Jerry Punch.
Well, Bob, a couple interesting stories up front in the very front row, a pair of Chevrolet Cavaliers, and some problems with both of these mounts. Now, the driver here, Jeff Fuller, who started on the pole, 32-year-old Jeff Fuller, with his Southern New England Egg Chevrolet, is having some problems now. A couple of months ago, Fuller apparently pinched a nerve in his neck and has been having a lot of numbness and tingling down the right arm. He's concerned. He's been undergoing some treatment, undergoing medication. He can't take medicine, of course, from a couple of days prior to each event, so he has to suffer the pain and try to endure here. But Jeff Fuller, certainly a competitor, having his troubles with some numbness and weakness in the right arm. He will try to compete today. And also Mike Stefanik, a former Stafford Motor Speedway Modified Series champion, qualified on the outside front row. Now, Mike is fine. The problem here is the car. A few minutes ago, the crew came over and had to unbuckle the hood because when they rolled the car around, they heard some vibrations in here. What they did was they put an extra-large fan in the front of the motor to keep the car cool, and the fan was popping this fiberglass hood. They can't change it now, so apparently the fan will just eat a little hole in the front of the hood here in the Stefanik car. So Mike Stefanik and Fuller for having a little bit of problems. Let's go back up the grid a little further to my colleague, Jack Arute. Jack?
Well, Jerry, you talked about Mike McLaughlin winning the National Driving Championship for the Modified Division. Well, there's a great story behind this race car. Billy Carrazzo out of Kensington, Connecticut is the car owner, and they've been running in the New England area, for about the last 15 or 20 years with many, many great drivers and great names. But they always restricted their racing to the Stafford Springs Motor Speedway and the Thompson Speedway. Then 4 years ago, they lost their driver. And along came Mike Magic Shoes McLaughlin, and they began to expand from a limited schedule to a regular schedule, and it all came to grips for McLaughlin and Company last year here in Martinsville, Virginia, when they gathered in their first ever National Driving Championship. Now McLaughlin is back with the Sherwood Industries car, and he is on top of the points. But I think the interesting point is the man that actually vacated this ride and gave Mike McLaughlin his chance and the National Driving Championship 4 years later is sitting trackside, or actually topside with our team right now, Brett Bodine. Brett, you know a lot about this car, don't you?
I sure do, Jackie. You know, a lot of fine memories ride with me in that number 12 car. We enjoyed a lot of success in the New England area, won the Stafford Track Championship and several races across New England and the Northeast, and you know, it's great to see the guys win the championship last year, and hopefully they can go on and do it again this year.
And Brett Bodine, a former winner on this racetrack also. Back in 1986, you won a race here, so you're somewhat familiar with the racetrack in addition to that car.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, I know a lot of you people in the Northeast who love this kind of racing have been waiting, and we are just moments away now from the start of this Raven Boats 150. The field begins to move away here at Martinsville for a couple of warm-up laps before taking the green flag for the Raven Boats 150. Pace car, by the way, being driven by Rusty Wallace here this afternoon. There you can see him. He has the governor of Virginia with him in the back there. That's not the official pace car, but yet it is one of the, shall we say, ceremonial pace cars.
The governor's the one with the tie on.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay, I just want you to understand. As a matter of fact, that's Bob Cook's daughter, isn't it, Fred?
Jerry Cook.
Jerry Cook, the old Modified ex-champion, 7 or 8 times.
That's right.
There's last week's winner, the number 07 car of Jimmy Spencer. He, of course, is the former champion of this division. We might explain why we're a little bit late getting the race starting. NASCAR had a problem with their scoring clock, and they had to go get a new one, so we're about 15 or so minutes later than normal in starting this race. But we've got 2 hours this afternoon with you, so don't fear that we're going to be off the air before the race ends. That isn't going to be the case. Field now at turn number 4 on the first warm-up lap as we're moments away from the start. Jeff will be the pole sitter, and Mike Stefanik will be alongside in that front row. Several of the cars moving down the straightaway, going back and forth and warming up the tires a little bit. Now, as far as pit strategy for this race, Jackaroo, can we expect regular pit stops?
Well, Bob, there's two schools of thought. Some of the front runners feel that it might be to their advantage to come in and take on tires. There's no fuel here because one of the reasons is 150 laps, they don't feel that they'll need fuel. Some of the other front runners, though, feel that it's too difficult to carve your way back to the front after making a pit stop. So unless the track really greases up, they don't intend to come in. One of the teams that's already determined that they intend not to come in unless they have a flat is your pole sitter car, that of Rick Fuller. I checked with Art Berry, the car owner. He says, we don't intend to do anything but go from the front to the checkered flag.
Well, how easy is it, Brett, to carve your way through the traffic that Jack is talking about? Is this an easy racetrack to pass on?
No, it's not. You know, and that's going to be the key to this race. The guys that get set up for the race immediately, that can run the distance without having to stop, they're going to be the guys that are going to be in contention to win the show today.
Little tire scuffing here, warming the tires up. Is that the idea?
Well, you know, these wide tires, so much rubber contact to the racetrack, it takes a lot of heat to get them warmed up, and you know, everybody's just making sure everything's okay. They got good brakes to get down in that first turn, so there won't be any trouble. And you know, we're going to see some exciting racing today. I can't wait.
The pace car has pulled into the pit area on the backstretch, and the field is by itself down the backstretch going into turn number 3. Jeff Fuller is the pole sitter, qualifying at 98.195. That's more than 5 miles an hour faster than the Winston Cup cars have qualified for tomorrow's Panel Sweatshirts 500 that will have delayed coverage for you tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Here comes the field out of the fourth corner. Do we get a green? Yes, we do. The Raven Boats 150 underway. Stefanik moving to the inside of Fuller in the second turn, making it a 2 abreast race into turn number 3. Stefanik on the inside in car number 16 as Fuller has the outside position. Here they come. Stefanik started on the outside, but quickly moved himself to the inside lane, and that's how he has taken the lead away from Jeff Fuller. As Fuller begins to drop back just a little now, he's racing side by side with Reggie Ruggiero for that third spot, as it's going to be Stefanik leading the race, and in second position is Rick Fuller in the U2.
Jeff Fuller's got caught in that outside lane, and that's just disastrous here at Martinsville. The guys are just all going by him down the inside.
There's Ruggiero on the inside in car number 44, but Fuller is hanging in there in third position, maintaining that spot, but it's just not exactly the fastest groove and where you want to be. They race wheel to wheel once again into turn number 1.
That's quite impressive. These cars running side by side with those tires sticking out. It's like a small Indy race, and I don't know how these guys are able to do it. Wow.
Ruggiero now up on the inside of the 21 car. Looks like he's going to get third away.
Right behind Ruggiero in the gold and orange and black car, the number 12 machine driven by Mike McLaughlin, the 1988 NASCAR Modified Tour champion. Now they begin to get strung out just a little bit, although it looks that Fuller is still hanging up there in that higher groove.
Looks like he wants to run out there. Like he said, okay, I'm going to pass these guys back on the outside. Look at that. If he can do it, it's going to be impressive, but I don't know.
Well, it looks like, you know, right now the guys are getting up off the corner real good, and that's where the passing's being done. You've got to get up off the inside, coming out of these corners, and that's what Mike McLaughlin's doing to Jeff Fuller right now, along with Tony Hirschman.
That's McLaughlin in car number 12, and Hirschman in the number 1, as the 21 of Jeff Fuller, the pole sitter, is pretty much hung out to dry there in that outside lane. There is Hirschman in car number 1. He started in 8th position, as the lead is still held by Mike Stefanik, as we have completed 7 laps now out of 150.
I see the pole winner, Jeff Fuller, has finally gotten to the inside of the racetrack.
I think he gave up on that outside lane for now, Benny, and, you know, I think that was a smart move. He could have gone a long ways back as close as everybody's running right now.
Look at that. They're just nose to tail. It's like a Talladega draft all over again. Nose to tail all the way back to the field.
Single file formation as Stefanik continues to set the pace.
Ruggiero making a move up the inside of Rick Fuller going down the back straightaway.
That's Ruggiero in car 4 and the U2 driven by Rick Fuller. Car getting high in turn number 4 does not spin. That's the number 81 car that got a little bit wide, Stephen Park. Let's go down to Jackaroo.
Well, Bob, we checked with Art Berry, the car owner of Rick Fuller, your pole sitter, and I said, asked him what happened. He said, I don't know what happened. He asked us. He said, I think basically what the problem is the car got caught on the of that start, and Rick had to find a spot. Very similar to what you see on the speedways with the Winston Cup cars with the carburetor plate, where when you're caught on the outside, unless someone lets you in, you've got to just stay hung out to dry for a while. And that's exactly what happened to Rick Fuller.
But he's in the inside lane now and maintaining the 6th position as we have a car that is beginning to show some smoke. The number 25 car of Jan Leedy. In fact, it's smoking rather badly there in turn number 2.
I wouldn't be surprised if NASCAR doesn't black flag that car because, well, you can see it pulling over already. He realizes he is could be harmful to the other competitor. He's pulled over on the inside already.
Jan Leedy comes into this race 3rd in the point standings, but he is headed for pit road at the moment with only 12 laps gone. Tough break for Jan, as back up front we have the number 16 car of Mike Stefanik leading, and a great battle for second place involving Rick Fuller and Reggie Ruggiero. Jerry Punch is there with the Jan Leedy car that's in the pits.
Well, a tough break for Jan Leedy. You know, the driver has won a couple of hits on ESPN and Oak for a Speedway, but apparently they have a lot of oil. As they've taken the hood off, there's oil in the front of the motor that's burning and producing a lot of smoke. So Leedy sitting here in the pits losing valuable time during the green flag. His chance at victory is over here at Martinsville. Gentlemen?
Reggie Ruggiero has gone into second position and now begins to set his sights on the 16 car of Mike Stefanik leading the race, as now the battle becomes one for 3rd position. That's McLaughlin in car number 12, rather make that 16, and
you were right to begin with. It
12,
is 12.
You're right, and the U2 of Rick Fuller.
McLaughlin all over Fuller coming up out of the second corner. Looks like he's going to make a move down the back straightaway.
Here he is. At the end of the backstretch, they go in wheel to wheel once again. Side-by-side racing. Let's see how they come out. That's McLaughlin on the inside. It looks like he's going to take over that 3rd spot. Yes, indeed, he does.
Ooh, and Fuller tried to get back down to the inside. The spot was already taken by Hirschman. A little bit of contact, but they're able to save the cars and continue on.
And 36, UNESCO is also coming in the picture there in the battle. The number 26 car has been black flagged. That's George Kent. The NASCAR officials saw some possible fluid coming from that car, so they made him come in for a check. Let's go down to Jack Arute once again, who has a comment on the number 26 car.
Well, actually, what the fluid was the radiator was overheating, Bob Jenkins. Now, these cars use a closed-in front end. So the team came in for George Kent, took this piece of fiberglass and tin off, hoping to get a little bit more air down into the radiator and cool the car down. But as he pulled out, the water was just spewing out of the back overflow area. So he may be back in with a terminal problem, overheating.
Well, he stands to go a lap down here in just a moment as the leaders are chasing him, and there is the battle for the lead. Mike Stefanik at number 16 and Reggie Ruggiero on 44. There they pass by the 26 car, and he goes a lap down. So Ruggiero is all over Stefanik for that lead, and you can see that they have separated themselves from the rest of the field by a little bit. These two cars have just taken off and are leaving everybody in their wake.
It looks like right now that Mike Stefanik is holding Reggie up just a little bit, but, you know, Mike might be just playing it cool, just running a nice pace, just enough to keep Reggie back there, and I think that would be a smart move if he could pull it off.
Look at this. He's going to try it on the outside. Oh, no, he was just tricking him. That's the old dirt track trick there. I'm going to try you on the outside. Fooled you, but it didn't fool him a bit. Stefanik is up to those tricks.
Stefanik, 30 years of age, from West Greenwich, Rhode Island, was third in the race that they held about a month ago here at Martinsville, and was 26th in the race at Thompson, Connecticut a couple of weeks ago. As you can see, Ruggiero still right there in the hunt, sneaking up on the back bumper of the Stefanik car. And we have a spin. That's Uranitsko coming out of corner number 4. Another car is involved. That's the 21 of Jeff Fuller. Let's see if anybody else. Looks like a couple of cars are going to bump. Don't think that anybody is going to be severely damaged. Uranitsko at number 36 was well into the top 10 when he spins in turn number 4 and brings out our first caution period of the day. And the number 10 car of Ed Klemke Jr. is smoking badly as it heads down into turn 1. And a replay of what happened.
Here we see that Iwanisco just bumps the car in front of him just enough. He has to get on the brakes. It spins. The car spins around, and poor Fuller had no place to go. Look at it. Jerked the tire right off the rim, just completely off the rim.
And, of course, the famous Martinsville curb, as a couple of other cars got sideways and maybe made slight contact with each other, but I don't think anybody else is going to be damaged to the point of not being able to continue. That famous Martinsville curb there has been talked about in racing for a long time, and it certainly played a part in that little incident.
That's not going to happen today.
So the number 21 car of Jeff Fuller, the pole sitter, also appears to be out of competition. He's climbed out in the pit area. We'll be right back. Here are the top 5 with 24 of 150 laps completed. Mike Stefanik is the leader. Reggie Ruggiero running in second. Mike McLaughlin is third. Tony Hirschman is fourth. And Rick Fuller is running in fifth position. Now, tomorrow here on ESPN, the NFL Draft from the Marriott Marquis in New York City. That'll be on at noon Eastern Time live. And that's the reason why our coverage of the Winston Cup race here at Martinsville is being pushed back until 8 o'clock tomorrow night. But certainly it's going to be an afternoon of exciting activity as the players choose who they want in the NFL Draft tomorrow at noon live Eastern Time. Now, we'll go back and take a look at the incident that's caused our first caution period of the day.
Again, Iwanisco just bumps the car in front of him enough he had to jump out of the throttle, hits the curb, around he goes. The pole sitter, Fuller, comes along. Jeff Fuller hits him. Not only did he knock the tire off the rim, but I'm sure Brett did some serious damage to the housing in the rear, wouldn't you think?
Oh, it certainly did, Benny. You know, those cars with the wide wheels and everything, a lot of leverage against all the chassis parts, and I think we saw the right front snap back on the 21 car as he made contact.
Well, there's the damage to the car, and let's go to Jack Arute, who gets the word from the man himself, Jeff Fuller.
Well, Bob, it's a very disappointed Jeff Fuller that's come over on this side of pit wall. Jeff, a tough way to go out of the race. First of all, you didn't have much you could do about this one, did you?
No, not really. We were kind of praying for a caution to come out because I think I had a right side tire going down. I really didn't want us to be the caution, though.
Jeff, when you take a wild ride like that, especially Dr. Jerry Punch had alluded to the fact that you've got a pinched nerve in your neck. Did you get bounced around there pretty bad?
No, we just ripped the right rear off, actually. The rear end bent back and pulled the drive shaft out of the transmission, so it really wasn't that hard of a hit. You know, if you get into the cement wall here, you know it, but a hit like that, usually the wheels give most of it.
Well, Jerry Punch, he bounced around a little bit, but he's none the worse for wear. How about the driver you're with?
Well, he's doing okay as well, Jack. A little bit disappointed. Jan Leedy, who has had 2 runner-up finishes here at Martinsville in his career, hoping to have a win today. He's still sitting around dejectedly in the car. And, Jan, what put you out of it?
Well, I'm afraid to say that we had a power steering seal go bad in our assist servo, so looks like we're done for the day.
Tough break for the Williamson, New York driver, Jan Leedy, who's the first car to park it here at Martinsville. Bob?
All right, thank you very much. And the number 07 car, driven by Jimmy Spencer, has just been moving up through the field very quickly. He started back in 17th position and has moved up to 8th right now as we are under caution. And he put on a tremendous performance last weekend at North Wilkesboro. Back down to Jack Arute, who's with the other guy that was involved in that crash, Mike Ewanitsko.
Well, the Raven Boats crew is going to work. They've got the car still up on the hook trying to make changes. Mike Ewanitsko is still strapped in the car. Mike, you hope to get back out there?
Yeah, I hope so. I think all we did is break the rack.
You got spun around. Did you get spun, or did you just lose it yourself?
Oh, well, we were coming out of the 4th corner there, and I got up on the curb, and it must have broke the steering, and it just went around.
Well, they're ready to go. They're pulling him off to the back pit to make the final change, and they hope to get back out into this one.
All right, and we'll go back to racing in one more lap, and 28 laps are now in the books.
When he said he broke the rack, I'm sure he's talking about the rack and pinion, Fred. Is that what he's talking
That's
about?
exactly right, Benny. These cars all run power assist, rack and pinion steering, and evidently, like he said, when he got on the curb, as you mentioned, it must have just gone ahead and broke something in the steering.
The steering is a lot quicker in these cars than a Winston Cup car.
Tremendously fast, and that was one of the problems I had getting used to Winston Cup racing was the slower steering in those cars compared to the modified.
So these things, when you turn them, they go where you want them to,
Exactly.
where you aim them, right? Bob Jenkins, they're fixing to throw the green.
Here we go. As the field comes out of the 4th corner, the green is out and racing resumes. It's Phil Stefanik up front, chased by Reggie Ruggiero. And look at the bumping going on down there in turn number 1 as they get sorted out. Going to the inside to pass the number 15 car of Wayne Anderson. And Ruggiero gets a little out of shape. He also found that Martinsville curbing down there as he went to the inside. In turn number 3.
Wayne Anderson came out of the pits in the 15 car that's back about 5th or 6th now, and he got in the way of the leaders, and they had to do some evasive action, and it was exciting.
The 07 car is Jimmy Spencer. Watch him. He is moving up quickly. He's 3 abreast, looking to the inside of the 76 cars. They came out of the 4th turn. That 76 being driven by Tom Bowles. Spencer still running in, he's now in 7th position.
Moved up a spot after that restart.
That's Brian Ross apparently on the restart as Ross is back in the 8th position.
Tommy Bowles looking to the inside of Rick Fuller now. Now that allows Brian Ross to catch back up behind Jimmy Spencer.
These 4 cars running together. The first 4 cars are separated by just a little bit. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Fuller, Bowles, Spencer, and Ross. Ross looking high, getting a little wide, losing a few feet, but nevertheless getting back on the throttle, coming out of the 2nd corner and catching up once again to Jimmy Spencer.
Jimmy Spencer, that's the first Southern modified in the field, in the lineup right now, isn't it, Fred? Is most of the other cars from the Northeast?
Exactly. That car's kept right here in the Martinsville, Virginia area and sponsored by Hayes Jewelers. Jimmy Spencer picked up the ride for the last couple races here in the South.
Coming back from a cut tire last weekend to win that race. And there once again is the leader, the 16 car of Mike Stefanik and Reggie Ruggiero right behind him. Let's go down quickly for a comment from Jerry Punch.
Well, gentlemen, you're talking about Jimmy Spencer, a two-time national modified champion. We saw him win a week ago at the Wilkesboro Speedway in this car, but it was a different motor. Remember, in the Southern racing, you could run a 14-to-1 compression motor. He had to go back to the legal tour motor, which is a 12-to-1 compression. Now, Spencer told me before the green flag that he was considerably down on horsepower. Would not be able to get the job done on the straightaways. Would have to make it up in the corners, and he is definitely doing it here. He said, I want to win here so badly. Although I won 2 national championships, I have never won at Martinsville. Yes, he took the checkered flag one time, but was disqualified for what they call a fuel cell discrepancy. So he has never won here at what they call the premier short track here in the South for modified racing. Gentlemen?
All right, so Spencer is in 7th position, and once again we go back up front to check on the lead, and it's still being held on by Mike Stefanik, but Ruggiero is right there and has not found that moment that he needs to make the move.
I tell you what, this is close. Those cars are very equally matched. It's going to be difficult to see anyone with an advantage. Brett, just a moment ago, Jerry Punch mentioned Martinsville, and to the modified drivers, Martinsville is the Daytona, isn't it? Or is it
really
Stafford, or where is the...
No, Martinsville has always been thought of the premier place to bring the modifieds to. You know, we come down here and spend a couple days and get to hang around with the Winston Cup people, and you really feel like a professional racer. And, you know, Martinsville being the facility that it is, it's just always great to come to Martinsville and race, and a lot of prestige goes with winning here at Martinsville.
So how does it make you feel when you come here as a Winston Cup regular, having graduated from this division? Do you kind of carry your head proudly as you walk through the modified division?
Well, you know, the guys have all really been very supportive of me in my Winston Cup endeavors, and it's great to get back and talk to them and see all the guys that you raced against and work with on the tour.
Number 95 car being driven by Lee Sherwood.
And the 4 car, that's
Satch Worley.
Satch Worley, a local boy out of just down the road, Rocky Mount, Virginia.
And Jamie Tomeno is right there in car number 99.
Both previous winners here at Martinsville, Satch Worley and Jamie Tomeno. Now Worley looking underneath Lee Sherwood going down into 3.
And Worley, a 3-time winner, the 150-lap modified race here at Martinsville. Sherwood, one of those that we saw last week at North Wilkesboro.
And the yellow 4 that we see right there, driven by Satch Worley from Rocky Mount, he has been driving previously for the past few years the 07 car that we saw Jimmy Spencer driving just a few moments ago. But Satch Worley wanted to run the modified tour this year, go to all the races. The 07 car couldn't do that. The only way he could do it was change rides, get in the 4th. That's what he's done, to run the modified tour.
That 95 car that Lee Sherwood's driving, that's the car that I drove my first modified race in here at Martinsville for that team. Wayne Miller's the car owner, and we came down here at Martinsville and finished ninth in my first outing.
So there's Satch Worley in number 4, and there is, once again, the leader, Mike Stefanik, and right behind him is Reggie Ruggiero. We'll be back with more of our coverage right after this. Was out on lap number 51. The reason for it, the number 73 car driven by Chris Ross spun down in turn number 2, didn't make contact with anything, got down into the grass, but it was enough to bring out our second caution period of the afternoon. Chris, the 23-year-old son of Brian Ross, who is also in this race in car number 69. Doesn't look like the car was hurt in any way, and Chris will stay out on the racetrack.
Do they have a double file restart on this, Brett, or they start single file?
No, all the restarts will be single file. I think with the wide tires and the cars being as erratic as they are on the restarts, it wouldn't be very good to have those double file restarts like we do in Winston Cup.
These big wide tires, when they get cold, or when on a caution flag, when they pick up some debris, is for the first couple of laps, are they very squirrely?
Exactly. These cars will run faster as they go along instead of the first couple laps being the fastest. And I think we saw that on the start of the race when Jeff Fuller dove in the first turn. His car didn't turn, and Mike Stefanik was able to get up underneath him coming off the 2. This is a case of cold tires not gripping the racetrack.
And that's about the opposite in the Winston Cup car. They stick the first couple laps better than they're going to as the tires get hot.
Exactly.
Well, while we have the opportunity, a hello to the winningest driver in the history of Martinsville Speedway, Ray Hendrick of Richmond, Virginia, who hopefully is watching our competition this afternoon. Now let's go to Jack Arute.
Gentlemen, remember at the start of the race, we were a little bit concerned about the fan that was in your lead car right now, that of Mike Stefanik. Well, the team has checked with Mike and said, has it begun to poke its nose up through the fiberglass yet? He said no, but it doesn't seem to be a problem, and we're going back to green.
It doesn't seem to be a problem as he has that car out front as they retake the green flag and competition resumes. And now we see McLaughlin moving high on the racetrack, and he stands to lose third position to Hirschman. Nope, he battles back and retains third spot. Meanwhile, it's Stefanik. Still leading Reggie Ruggiero. McLaughlin is in third position, and then Tony Hirschman in fourth.
I saw some smoke out of that 44. Did you see that, Brent? Was it tire smoke or...
Well, we saw a little bit earlier, but here on the restart, it seems to have gone away a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that myself a couple of laps ago, and really didn't think it was anything serious, but we'll continue to watch for it. It really becomes more evident now as time goes along, so there could be a problem with that 44 car of Ruggiero as he has been chasing Stefanik for several laps. What about it, Jerry Punch? Is the crew looking at a possible problem on that car?
Well, I'm standing in the Reggie Ruggiero pit with car owner and crew chief Mario Fiore. And Mario, they're telling us they're seeing a little bit of smoke out of the car. Now, Reggie radioed you and told you that it wasn't his car smoking, it was somebody else, right?
He says when Michael Stefanik gets on the gas pedal coming off the turn, smoke comes out from behind the car. He was worried if Michael has an engine problem or not.
They're telling us here that Ruggiero is seeing smoke out of the Stefanik car, so we'll keep an eye on that. But they don't think they have a problem at all on the car number 44.
Well, I think on the hood we talked about a moment ago, we see the bright orange car there. That's Stefanik. And we talked about the fan hitting the hood. Once the car gets rolling and the air goes inside under the hood, it ought to push the hood up away from the fan. Don't you think, Brent?
Well, you know, Betty, with the aerodynamics on the front of these cars, it might actually be going the other way. Might be pushing the sheet metal down.
Yeah, here's 5th, 6th, and 7th going at it. That's Rick Fuller in the U2, the 76 of Tom Bowles, and the 69 of Brian Ross. 5th, 6th, and 7th. Now, that U2 car that's leading this parade down the backstretch, I'm sure all of you fans will be able to recognize very readily that that is a Ford Probe. Now, all cars, of course, have to be based on some kind of a stock car, and that is, we have a spin up in turn number 4. Satch Worley is loose and having slight contact with the wall up in turn number 3. There you see Satch as the car has...
It looks like he's got a right rear tire flat, and that probably is what caused him to spin going down in the third turn.
It sure is flat. We see the rim sitting on the racetrack.
And Satch was making a real good run towards the front. Him and Jimmy Spencer had hooked up and were making good progress up through the field.
Well, unfortunately, they're counting the caution flag, so now he is a lap down. Unfortunately, the car is being pushed away from the wall. I don't think he made any contact with the wall.
If it was very slight. It looks like he's trying to get the car restarted so he can get to the pit area.
Okay, so our third caution period is out as the tow truck goes to the rescue. And we will have more of our coverage of the Raven Boats 150 from Martinsville Speedway in just a moment. Stefanik leaving the Raven Boats 150 here at Martinsville with Reggie Ruggiero running second, Mike McLaughlin is third, Tony Hirschman fourth, and Rick Fuller running in 5th position. 6 through 10, Tom Bowles, Brian Ross, Doug Hebron, Richie Gallup, and Eddie DeHaan. 62 laps are completed. Let's go down to Jack Arute, who's in Satch Worley's pit.
Well, your assumption that he would have cut a right rear tire is absolutely correct, Benny Parsons. They've made the exchange on tires. They've got another problem they're contending with, and that's an overheating problem. But they've taken the vent cap off, and they've drained the system, so to speak, so they're going to go back outside and go racing again. But another driver that we've been watching, and that is of Reggie Ruggiero, and Jerry Punch is in his pit to update us on that report.
Well, Jack Reggie Ruggiero has a similar problem. He, too, has an overheating problem. They're losing some fluid out of the car. They're concerned about the motor, and they're going to try to stay up.
We have a crash, Jerry. Several cars involved. Tom Baldwin nails the 99 of Jamie Tomato. The 77 of Richie Gallup was one of those originally involved. Looks like the Tomato is the only car that is not going to be able to go here. 77 car of Gallup was in the middle of the racetrack, headed in the wrong direction, but he is now okay. But Tomato is not. 65 laps, and the yellow is out once again.
Say, those cars are too fragile. Here's a replay. and it's a restart. And as Brett Bodine talks about, these cars just do not get a grip good enough on the first lap, do they?
That's exactly right, Benny. The cold tires just don't get a hold of the racetrack. And, you know, the guys were jockeying for position, and it looked like Ricky Gallup just lost it. And then Jamie and Tommy Baldwin came together just after the fact.
Boy, this isn't Baldwin's day. He had a tough time in qualifying, but they did get the car repaired in time to get it in the race, and now this.
Look at the cars just trying to get a grip going through the gears. It's very, very hard.
Does the concrete make a difference, Brett? You know, there is a difference from the inside to the outside. The outside is pavement, the inside is concrete.
Well, really, one of the major problems here at Martinsville is we have to run much harder tire than we're used to on the other racetracks because of the concrete. The concrete tends to chew the tire up, and they have to go to a harder compound. And, you know, a lot of the guys just are not used to that tire not getting a hold of the racetrack like it normally would on a regular Saturday night race at a track where they could run a softer compound. And, you know, the hard tire comes from one of the things, the fact that nobody wants to pit. Everybody wants to run the entire race on one set of tires, and that's why they run the hard tires.
Still watching that second-place car of Reggie Ruggiero for a possible problem. Jerry Punch is in the pits. What can you tell us, Jerry?
Well, Molly mentioned a minute ago, they think they may have an overheating problem. You guys weren't seeing things. They couldn't see any smoke down here, but you guys spotted it upstairs. And, of course, now the temperature is rising in that Pontiac. One concern they have is unless they have to, they don't want to be able to they don't want to come in and have to make a pit stop. The reason being, and maybe Brett Bodine can elaborate on it, Brett, is track position, something we talk about a lot in Winston Cup racing. Track position is so important here. If you pit after about 70 or 80 laps in a 150-lap race, well, you don't have a chance of getting back to the front. So a very serious concern here on Reggie Ruggiero's team's part. Let's go over to the back pits with Jack Arute standing by with Jamie Tomeno. Jack?
And Jamie has gotten out of the car, and it is so badly wounded, you're not going to be able to continue. What happened?
No way. I'm going into turn one there, so everybody hit the brakes. I hit mine, but somebody from behind me cremated me. The car jumped out of gear. Next thing I knew, I slid across the track and hit Tommy Baldwin. It was just one of them brakes.
Now, Brett Bodine was saying that maybe one of the reasons for some of the hard driving here and the slipping and sliding is the harder compound tire.
Well, most of us don't really have a harder compound tire on. I don't myself either. I had to start 28. I was working my way to the front. It was just a crazy wreck, and I got the worst of it.
Well, he'll be back on the modified tour. You can be sure of that. That's why they call him Jamie the Jet.
Jamie Tomeno, unfortunately, out of competition in this race.
You talk about a fast-talking Yankee. Now, there's one. Hey, Jamie Tomeno, is he a fast talker?
Now, here's the Ford Probe. Now, the back end of this car is different than the others. You'll notice there's not as much slope to it. The sloping bar doesn't come down. But this car is based on the Ford Probe body.
The what?
Yeah, Ford Probe.
Oh,
Well, the reason it has no C-pillar is in the Ford Probe from the factory, that's all glass in the back, where the rest of the cars, the Pontiac J2000s and the Cavaliers, do have a C-pillar that separates the rear glass from the side. And, of course, on the Ford,
No,
it
wait
doesn't.
a minute. A C-pillar. Now, what's a C-pillar? Now,
Well,
an A-pillar is what?
the A-pillar is the front windshield post.
Okay, what's the B-pillar?
The B-pillar would be the right at the door, behind the driver's head. That's considered the
That's the
B-pillar.
B, and the C
The
is...
C-pillar is at the rear.
Oh, okay.
All right. So there's an explanation of the pillars as the race continues to be run under caution here at Martinsville, the Raven Boats 150 NASCAR Modified Tour Race. Back at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia, where ESPN Speed World is live for the NASCAR Modified Tour. Tomorrow here on ESPN, after the NFL draft at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, delayed same-day coverage of the Panel Sweatshirts 500. And, Brett, what can you tell us about that? What kind of a race is it going to be, and how are you going to do?
As usual, it'll be an exciting race for Martinsville, and hopefully we'll get that number 15 Motorcraft Ford Thunderbird up towards the front where it belongs.
Well, don't your brother tell you anything?
Brett, yeah.
He's on the pole,
Jeff is on the pole, and Brett will be starting from 15th position tomorrow afternoon. So join us for that at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Meanwhile, it's racing resuming in the Modifieds. Ruggiero still right behind Stefanik, trying to take over the lead. Stefanik has been doing a fine job of holding that position and protecting it as Ruggiero is inside and outside and looking all around for the opportunity. And here comes McLaughlin in car 12.
Right now, I believe that Reggie Ruggiero's thinking, if I can get by Mike Stefanik, maybe I can solve my coolant problem. If I don't have to follow him so close, maybe I can get clean air and and gets his engine temperature down. And I think that's why he's pressuring so hard right now.
Well, running up so close on the back bumper of the car, that does reduce the amount of air that comes into the radiator, I would guess.
It certainly does. And, you know, a lot of heat comes off the car itself in front of you. And, you know, I'm sure that's what's in Reggie's mind. If he can just get by Stefanik, he could probably stop his own heat problem.
But for the moment, he is still right behind. Last lap, he gave Mike a little bit of a nudge there in turn number 3 to let him know he was back there and would certainly like to find the way around. There's McLaughlin in the number 12 car running third. In the 1 car is Tony Hirschman. He's in 4th position.
We saw the 44 as he pulls down on the inside going down the straightaway. He's doing that for 2 reasons, I believe, Bob, is that he wants to trick Stefanik into thinking he can pass, but also we see when he pulls out, he can get some air into the radiator and cool that thing down just a little bit.
That's exactly right, Benny. You know, and if, I believe if he doesn't make a move to get by him, I think you'll see him drop back and try to get some clean air.
Coming up on the halfway mark of the Raven Boats 150. As Stefanik is the leader.
And we keep talking about Raven Boats. I want to explain to you folks watching that why would a boat manufacturer be sponsoring a race? Because they manufacture. A car off the second corner had a problem, but they manufacture the boats here in Martinsville. Hence, that's why they're sponsoring the race.
The U2, driven by Fuller, and the 69 is Brian Ross, as they're having a bit of a race now. This is for 5th position, as Rick Fuller in the Ford Probe U2 car has the spot right now. Brian Ross in 69 is right behind him. And we have several cars into the wall down in turn number 3. At least 4 cars are involved. The 95 of Sherwood is involved, so is the 48 car of Wayne Edwards.
45 of Johnny Bryant.
Those 2 cars, oh, they finally broke loose. They were hung together there. The rear bumper and the front bumper were hung, but they got going, and I guess they saved a lap, yes.
Pace car had come out onto the racetrack to pick up the leader, and they kept from losing a lap. And there's the 48 car of Wayne Edwards. He is still against the wall up in turn number 3, very similar to the place that Satch Worley came to rest. So that car is going to have to be gotten off the racetrack as the tow trucks are en route at the moment. Wayne Edwards from Montrose, Pennsylvania, driving the Kissel Paving Chevrolet. Well, there are several rules concerning the limitation on these modified cars. That's the subject of today's Track Back with Dr. Jerry Punch. Track Backs are brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
There have been a number of changes that have been invoked by NASCAR over the past 10 years or so in modified racing to help improve competition and diminish cost. The first change came about a decade or so ago when NASCAR said you got to have a gear rule at each racetrack. There are certain gears you can and can't use. Here at Martinsville, you can use no more than a 5.04 gear. This is the rear-end quick change gearing here. That helps control RPMs in the motor and improve engine life. The other 2 changes came to being from the engine compartment up front. Now, we're all familiar that at Daytona and Talladega, they use a restrictor plate, which helps to reduce horsepower and increase engine life. Well, the same thing here in the Modified. They don't use a plate, they use a smaller carburetor. This small 390 carburetor, down from what they used to use, a 750 or 850 carburetor, diminishes horsepower considerably, but also improves engine life and cuts cost. And the last rule change by NASCAR, actually a year ago, internal in the motor. You can't really see it, but they're down to a 12-to-1 maximum compression ratio, down from what it used to be, over 14-to-1. Less compression ratio, less heat, but longer engine life and less cost for the modified competitors.
Well, the number 48 car of Wayne Edwards is still against the wall up in turn number 3, and the medical personnel are on the scene to see if he is okay. We'll be back with an update on that story when we return for more of the Raven Boats 150. The red flag has been thrown over the Martinsville, Virginia Speedway because of an accident up in turn number 3. As you can see, the rescue team is working on the number 48 car of Wayne Edwards as he was involved in a multi-car tangle, and the medical personnel are attending to him. We have no report at the moment on the seriousness of his injuries. Nevertheless, the red flag has been brought out and the race has been stopped for the moment. You remember last week we had a red flag situation also because the driver had a shoulder injury, and it wasn't so much the seriousness of the injury, but rather the difficulty in getting him out of the car. So there are many reasons why the race is red flag, to allow the rescue people and the medical personnel to attend to the driver. Let's hope that the driver involved here, Wayne Edwards from Montrose, Pennsylvania, is not seriously injured. You can see they have removed the top from the Modified. Now begin to work in extracting him from his wrecked race car.
Yeah, there really isn't much to take the roof off those automobiles. As we mentioned just a moment ago, the A-pillar or the windshield post, you just clip those there, and you go back to the back where we talked about the C-post, back where the rear window goes, and clip those, and you can just lift the roof right off. And it's we see them now cranking. That's the jaws of life, or the piece of equipment that snaps that cuts the roll bar so that it can make it even easier to get to the driver. It's powered by electric motor or a gasoline motor. We're starting the thing up, and there's a hydraulic jaws that they can cut the driver right out. Jerry Punch has something about that, Jerry.
Well, Benny, one of the reasons they do things like that, we saw the exact same thing happen a week ago at the Wilkesboro Speedway when Don Smith slammed the wall over in turn 2. Now, Smith was awake and alert in the car, but they couldn't get him out because he had a shoulder injury. They had to go over and cut the top of the car out and lift him straight out. That is simply an emergency medical procedure, so they can get what they call a KED, a Kendrick extrication device, slide it down in behind him to protect his spine. They want to be sure they protect the neck and the spine of a driver, and they want to make sure that they can get that in the car and get the driver completely lifted out of the car directly upward rather than pulling in one way or the other. The driver apparently may be getting out of the car. Jack Arute standing up there. How about it, Jack?
Well, Jerry, let's explain to you people that have never seen a modified race maybe one of the reasons why you have to peel the top away. As Jerry said, to get the safety crews in, but unlike what we see in the in-car cameras on the Winston Cup Brigade, the quarters inside a NASCAR Winston Modified are very, very tight. They run the sheet metal right down to the side of the driver, and then his feet, almost like an IndyCar tub, extend down towards the left side of the engine. They actually down past the engine where the engine and the bell housing are. Very, very tight quarters, and when you have a crash and you're wedged in there, sometimes the sheet metal, the roll bars, and everything else can actually pin you in there. While it's not a serious injury, it's awfully tough to get the driver out. I know one thing, it'll be awfully tough for me to get in this one. Back to you.
All right, the driver, by the way, did climb out of the race car on his own and is seated on the stretcher now, so he doesn't appear to be seriously injured. He was wearing the neck brace. The top 20 now with 82 laps completed. Mike Stefanik, the leader. Reggie Ruggiero is second. Mike McLaughlin third. Tony Hirschman fourth. And Rick Fuller is in fifth position. Running sixth is Brian Ross, Tom Bowles, Doug Hebron, Charlie Pasteryak, and Jimmy Spencer. Then 11 through 15, George Ross Jr., Bob Park, Frank Fleming, Stephen Park, and Johnny Bryant. And 16 through 20, Lee Sherwood running 16, followed by Worley, Richie Gallup, Chris Ross, and Billy Middleton. So there are the top 20 with 82 out of 150 laps completed. Bruce Flanders has a preview of the Trans Am race from Long Beach we'll be seeing right after our coverage here from Martinsville. Back at Martinsville, where the Modifieds are on the racetrack and the Winston Cup cars are in the pit area, and there's the Motorcraft 4 that will be driven by Brett Bodine in tomorrow's Panel Sweatshirts 500 that we'll have for you tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock following the NFL draft. The Panel Sweatshirts 500, Brett starts 15th, and brother Jeff Bodine starts on the pole for tomorrow's race. Now, we have seen Jeff watching this race. We have seen Michael Waltrip watching this race. Can you indeed learn anything? You know, you can normally learn something if you're watching a Grand National race on the same track. Can you learn anything from a Modified watching these guys the day before Winston Cup?
Well, I really feel you can. You know, the track conditions are really determined on what's preceded our race, and the Modified's laying down a lot of rubber, and you can watch the better handling cars and see what happens to them during the race and go ahead and make maybe a pre-last practice decision on what you want to do for that last practice of the day.
You probably learn more by the fact that they have a race on Saturday afternoon. Now, when this race is over, let me explain the scenario to the fans that's watching us. What happens when this race is over, as soon as the victory lane ceremonies take place and what have you, the Winston Cup cars are able to go out and practice.
That's
and you
right.
can probably learn more because there was a race with they've got the racetrack in condition for racing.
When we go back on the track for that final practice today, it's really under a race condition. Halfway through maybe tomorrow's race is what we're looking at. You know, and it really helps you make those final decisions.
Well, another Winston Cup guy that's watching the competition is, well, there's Bill Elliott. And Ken Schrader also watching the activity here. He's with Jack Arute.
Bob, you know, Bob Euchre says, hey, I got tickets to the race, and it's on the front row. Well, Kenny Schrader's got precisely that on the back of his Folgers tractor trailer. But, Kenny, the great story that has developed over the past year is between yourself and a modified pilot by the name of Brian Ross. He's driving Ed Close's number 69 today. And tell us a little bit about how the relationship developed between the two of you.
Well, we just worked out a deal last year where I could drive Ed Close's and Brian's other car in a couple races, run at Oswego and run third, and Indianapolis Raceway Park run sixth. So, and we put Brian in our Talladega car, our ARCA car down Daytona. He run third in the race, run him Atlanta, he run top 5 all day, and we broke. So I'm going to run about 6 modified races, and he's going to run about 6 ARCA races in for Ken Schrader Racing.
Now, the next stop for Brian Ross is a pilot of Ken Schrader's owned automobile, be Talladega in a couple of weeks, right?
Well, Brian will run that at Talladega, and then next week I'm going to run, we'll be running the Busch car at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, and run Brian's modified at Jennerstown, Pennsylvania.
So this guy is going to run modifieds as well as run the Winston Cup cars, and then Brian Ross is going to run the Grand National car as well as run his modified. A little cross-pollination between divisions. Let's check in with the condition of that driver and our own Dr. Jerry Punch. Jerry?
Well, Wayne Edwards just being removed from the Martinsville Speedway to be taken to a local hospital, and I'm with Dr. Roy Allison, who is the assistant director of the air care team, the trauma team here from North Carolina Baptist Hospital in Winston-Salem. And Dr. Allison, you checked the driver over. How is he?
Right now, he's stable. He's awake, and he's doing well. We're sending him over more as a precaution just to complete some studies over at the hospital.
Well, Dr. Allison here, courtesy of the North Carolina Baptist Hospital and the Brenner Children's Hospital, a customary and very welcome sight, the Air Care Trauma Helicopter Team on hand at Martinsville Speedway. Dr. Allison, one of the chief emergency medicine physicians at Baptist Hospital, and he will be sent out for some x-rays, and everything appears to be, though, okay so far with Wayne Edwards. And that's good news. Bob?
Okay, and that is very good news. Let's back up and talk about Winston Cup, just a couple of things. First of all, Ken Schrader, whom we just talked to, had an excellent qualifying performance. He'll start 5th in tomorrow's race, and we can't forget the king, Richard Petty. Not only is he in the race, he is solidly in the race. Will be starting from 17th position in tomorrow's action.
As a matter of fact, there we see Richard Petty's STP Pontiac. I read in the paper this morning, he was complaining that he should have qualified better.
He really was running much better than
Yes.
that practice, and, you know, I really expected him to be in the top 10. They put an excellent effort forth here at Martinsville, and Richard's running good again in practice, and he's going to be tough tomorrow.
Richard Petty broke the record, the qualifying record, but you know what? 18 cars yesterday broke the existing track record at Martinsville.
Tremendous qualifying efforts put on by all the teams yesterday, and, you know, it's going to be a great race Sunday.
We'll be going back to racing here in just a few moments. Meanwhile, let's get some information on the 250cc motorcycle race from Laguna Seca. We call in Dave Despain. We have just gone green again on lap number 85, and the NASCAR Modified Tour race continues from Martinsville. Mike Stefanik still leading in the number 16 car, and Reggie Ruggiero is right there behind him in the number 44 car. It's McLaughlin running in 3rd position, then Hirschman, and the U2 of Rick Fuller running in 5th spot. Now, did that red period, I assume it did, help Tomeno? The car has cooled down. Is he going to have those problems that he experienced earlier when we run a few laps?
I think you're exactly right. The caution helped Reggie cool the car down, the red flag, excuse me, and I think he's going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Mike Stefanik now.
By the way, we were red for 11 minutes as they extracted Wayne Edwards from that car. He walked away, however, and appears to be not seriously injured. He is going for some x-rays. Ruggiero looking to the inside down the front stretch, cannot make the pass, but it is a tremendous race. Now let's see if he can get him in turn 3. Nope, he has to let off, and Stefanik holds on.
You say, well, where in the world did he get all this power? What happened when the engine cooled off? When the engine gets really hot, they lose probably 10-15% of their power. So when that thing cooled off, look how much more power it looks like he has, and it's about 10% probably. He gets through the middle of that corner so well.
The car really gets through the middle of the corner. If he could just ever get Mike Stefanik up out of that groove, he'd have a shot at him on the inside.
So Ruggiero still dogging Stefanik. they run nose to tail with 90 laps now completed and 60 more to go. Ruggiero closing in the middle of the straightaway, but when they come off the corner, Stefanik is able to pull away just a little bit. Now Ruggiero will look inside again.
It looks to me like the engine is starting to warm up in the 44 car.
Now he's going to try outside, maybe. Nope.
No, that ain't going to work. But I think the engine's starting to get warm. It looks like it's lost a little bit of that power that he had when this thing first started back.
It loses just a little tip up out of the corner, and that makes all the difference in the world of trying to make a pass here at Martinsville. They're just starting to move away from that number 12 car.
On the outside again.
Jerry Punch is in the pit area in the Reggie Ruggiero pit. Jerry, what have you learned down there?
Well, they're telling us down here, Bob, that Reggie certainly has to alter his driving style considerably. The car is overheating so severely, they think they may have a blown head gasket. So when he pulls right up on the rear of Stefanik, the car temperature really goes up. So he's either trying to get around him or back off and get some air in the front of the car. And Ruggiero trying valiantly to try to get around him on the outside. Now, when he moves up on the outside in turn 1 and 2 here, he can get a little bit of air in the car. He is right plugged beneath the rear of the car's Stefanik machine. He tucks back in, and the temperature goes up. So he's going out and in and out and in, trying to find some way to get around Mike Stefanik.
Boy, he is doing everything, Jerry. He looks like he wants to pass on the outside in the third and fourth turns, but can't do it. Now he's right up on the bumper, and we're beginning to see the smoke again from that Ruggiero car. So this is a do-or-die situation. He's either got to pass, or it looks like this car may be history. He slides high in the third and fourth turns, and that's just not going to work up there.
He just can't quite get a hold of the racetrack in that second lane coming off of 4. If he could just get a little farther alongside going into the corner, he might have a chance to get by Mike Stefanik.
He's probably going on the outside. 2 reasons. Number 1, to see if he can get by, but the second thing, and probably most importantly, to get some clean air. We keep talking about some air to that radiator and hope to cool the thing off. Because, folks, see, we'll see him on the outside. He's got to be cooling the car off. He would not be up there just to be riding around. Because if the thing is running hot.
And we have a crash down in the first turn. The number 9 car driven by, or no, that's 8. Bo Gunning is involved, and the 19 also of Bob Park. So Park and Gunning both spin in turn number 1. There's a third car involved also.
Chris Ross.
Exiting
Eddie D. Hunt.
Eddie D. Hunt. So everybody keeps going, but the caution flag is out once again, and that's the 6th caution flag. Let's go down to Jack Arute, who can explain why that car is overheating.
Well, we're going to give you a little remedial racing here, gentlemen. You see with these modified cars, what they do is they enclose the front end. And all that's left in some of them, especially Reggie Ruggiero's car, is this area here. Now, the radiator, like on a Winston Cup car, is not here. When you pull this piece off, you can get a little better look of exactly how far back the radiator is. So what has happened with Ruggiero's car is he's not getting enough air in the tunneling effect coming in through here. So what's happening, and I'd have to ask Brett Bodine this question, maybe the change in driving style is an effort to get some more air. Not as much Ruggiero looking to go to the outside as it is to get this tunneling effect to bring more fresh air in, because when he's up against the rear deck lid of the leader, Stefanik, this air area is literally closed right off, kind of like this. So while he'd like to take the lead, he's desperate for air to cool the engine down, and that forces him to go to the outside more than he'd like to.
That's exactly right. That's what Benny Parsons was speaking of. He's trying to get around the outside of Mike Stefanik for sure for the lead, but he's actually just trying to get some clean air up into that radiator.
Well, let's take a look at the most recent incident down here between turns 1 and 2 that's caused a caution. Looks like there may have been something on the track because several of them got loose.
Yeah, it's exactly what it looked like. A little fluid maybe spilled on the racetrack, as we do see it now. The 19 car of Bob Park pulling away, but the Speedy Dry truck is putting down some stay dry, so evidently there was some fluid down on the racetrack.
There's Bo Gunning in car number 8, also involved in that little incident. Well, Dr. Jerry Punch is down roaming the pits, and he has found some very intense Winston Cup drivers. Right, Jerry?
Well, is this intensity, Bob? I mean, take a look at this guy in the rocking chair and the beard. Hey, I think Brett may recognize this fella. And watching some of his friends and contemporaries in the modified division as they are doing battle today. And just to the right of him, take a look at Dale Earnhardt relaxing on top of the truck with a big Atlanta Braves cap on. Now, the combination of the Atlanta Braves. Dale has a bet with his good old friend Jody Davis, the catcher for the Braves. Every time Dale wins a race, Davis has to hit 2 home runs. Well, he won last week at Wilkesboro, and now Jody Davis is 2 home runs behind. So his old hunting and fishing buddy. Let's take a look at the top 10 here. Just past the 2/3 mark here, just at 100 laps at 150 for the Raven Boats 150. Mike Stefanik leading the way and overheating Reggie Ruggiero in second. We'll be back.
Back at Martinsville for the Raven Boats 150. Thursday is the night of Thursday Night Thunder here on ESPN, live at 10 o'clock from Ascot Park in Gardena, California, the USAC Jolly Rancher Western States Midgets. Every Thursday night now for about 5 more weeks, I guess. Midgets from Gardena, and later on in the year will transfer the activity to Indianapolis Raceway Park. Of course, Speed Week begins all the Thursday Night Thunder action at 7:30. Then a couple of more hours of auto racing related activity before the live USAC Midgets at 10 o'clock. Well, we are still under caution. However, the flagman, Paul Coakley, is signaling now. 1 more lap to go, and we'll be back to racing. 103 laps are in the book, so we got less than 50 to go. And the story of the race is Mike Stefanik at number 16 and the 44 of Reggie Ruggiero. The car is overheating, and he has just not found the opportunity to get around Stefanik. And the question is, how much longer can he hold on?
I'm impressed by Ruggiero. I mean, the car's been overheating since the word go, and we're 100 laps. We've got 47 laps to go. We've completed 103 laps, and he's got the thing still alive.
Well, you know, he's really using his head. I think Reggie knows he's got to finish. The points race means a lot, and he'd certainly like to win the race, but he really do like to finish.
All right, we're about to go back to green now as Stefanik leads them down off the 4th corner. Here it is, green flag, racing once again. Ruggiero all over him. And that car cools off. It is strong, but as time goes on, it heats up. And now the 12 car, McLaughlin, beginning to move in on Ruggiero.
Mike McLaughlin looking like he wants to make a
The
move
lead
for the
car,
lead. They
something
come
wrong with
together. Off of 4, Mike Stefanik got a little sideways, and Reggie looked to the inside but couldn't make the pass.
Boy, they all got bunched up here, and now there are about 7 cars that are running nose to tail, and right there for is Ruggiero, and behind him is McLaughlin, then Hirschman, then Fuller, then Rawson, then Bowles.
There's something wrong with that lead. There's something wrong with that lead car. I don't know what it is, but he's just not coming off the corner like he has been. There's something wrong with that automobile.
Last couple of laps, he's been very squirrely coming off the 4th corner.
I think we're seeing the left front tire that Mike Stefanik's car starting to grain up a little bit, making the car so it won't turn in the middle of the corner, and he's actually having to stop the car to get it turned. We can see that little dark streak on that left front tire. I think he might be having some tire trouble.
We'll watch for it. In any case, that car is definitely not going through and coming off the corner as much as it was earlier.
You know, Reggie Ruggiero's really got to be frustrated right now. He knows he's got a better car than the leader, but just cannot get around it. You know, he's fighting an overheat problem. He's really got a lot of things on his mind, and I know that Reggie's getting awful frustrated running second.
Ruggiero, the most popular driver in the NASCAR Modified division last year, and runner-up for the Modified title in '87 and in '88. And he is still trying to find the opportunity to pass Stefanik for the lead. Let's go down to Jacarudas. We have a car, Lee Sherwood, into the wall in turn number 4. He'll be backing down the racetrack. However, the caution does come out, and they do not race back to the caution. The pace car is already on the racetrack. And so the pace slows once again for the 7th time. Lee Sherwood, driving car number 95. Lee is from Owego, New York.
The next lap, they're going to throw the green flag again. There we see the 44 of Reggie Ruggiero. And look at this paint job. The sponsor is
Teddy Bear Pool.
Teddy Bear Pool, the swimming pool. And look at the waves. Jacaroot has something on the 16 car.
Well, Benny, we know Reggie Ruggiero's got a problem. Now we find out that also your leader, Mike Stefanik, has got a problem. His problem, tires that are overheating. When the tires cool down, they don't work as well, so these caution periods are hurting him. It's only when the tires get good and hot does he get the adhesion. So they say, we don't like these cautions because we need to be able to run super hot to stay in front of Ruggiero. So this caution is not to their liking, but they're going back to green again.
Indeed we are. This has been a short caution period as Sherwood was able to get himself going in the right direction. The race is resuming. And now let's see once again what happens with Ruggiero and Stefanik.
Well, that time Stefanik got through turn 1 and 2 better than he has.
Here's
Look on the
Ruggiero.
outside.
Outside. Nope, can't do it.
I was going to say Mike got through 1 and 2 better that time on the first lap than he has been.
While we're watching the battle up front, we might tell you that the 07 car of Jimmy Spencer, who had to pit on lap number 51, has worked his way back up to 8th position. But here is the action. Ruggiero's trying to set him up. Now he's trying to go inside of him down the straightaway, but Stefanik appears to have some power coming off the corner to keep him back there.
That's exactly what he was trying to do, Bob. He tried to show him that outside move and then hopefully draw him to the outside lane and move under it down the front rodeo. But, you know, Stefanik's hanging tough there in the lead.
Now, with these cars, Brett, as frustrated as Ruggiero has to be behind Stefanik, are we going to get a little bump here in a little bit? Are we going to just have a little bump to get him out of shape so he can get by?
Well, you know, we've seen him put the chrome horn to him a little bit here in the middle of the corners, but no, I think Reggie will race him clean. You know, these are two professional drivers, and they know what each other is capable of, and, you know, Mike's just doing his job. He's protecting his spot, and Reggie's got to go around him cleanly, and I think that Mike is doing a heck of a job holding off Reggie right now.
Let's go down to Jerry Punch, who is watching this 44 situation with Ruggiero.
And Bob, Reggie Ruggiero, the comment was he may have a brake problem. They say the brakes are fine. Now Reggie is actually pumping the brakes, and he's trying to keep him running over Stefanik. Stefanik's car, as Jack alluded to a few minutes ago, is not getting off the corner that well. And Reggie has to be able to have that foot up there and just tap the brakes to keep from running into him coming off the corner. Ruggiero's car is overheating, but one of the problems he doesn't have is brakes.
Well, Ruggiero still can't find the opportunity to pass.
The two leaders now have opened up on the third-place car of Mike McLaughlin, and I think what it is just the fact that Stefanik, feeling that pressure from Ruggiero all the time, has to get back in his rhythm to get the car, you know, to pull away from that third and fourth-place car.
That's got to be something when you look up in the mirror and there's some guy around your bumper all the time. Because every lap you look up and the same guy's there, and you don't know if he's going to pass you on the outside or on the inside, and you've got to change your line a little bit, don't you, Brett?
Well, exactly. You know, you're trying to protect that inside, but, you know, sometimes that tends to slow you down. You start protecting your spot instead of letting the car work where it has to be in the fastest position. And, you know, that's what Reggie's trying to do, get him out of shape. And Reggie trying again on the outside over there in the third turn.
It's interesting to watch Ruggiero. He's just back there bothering Stefanik. He's going high, he's going low, as Bo Gunning has apparently spun once again. He's at the entrance to the backstretch pits, and in fact is in the entrance itself, so it will not require a caution period. But we have a car spinning. Charlie Pasteryak gets sideways coming off of corner number 2, and he spins, and this will bring out a caution.
Yet.
Or no, it won't, I guess.
No, they did not throw the caution flag.
Well, they're taking a lesson from the Winston Cup division. We saw that last week when a minor spin did not bring out a caution, and that's what happened that time. Pasteryak was pretty much at the back of the pack and spun. There was nobody